Viewer discretion is advised before proceeding. The following content is intended strictly for educational and entertainment purposes. What you're about to read is a word-forward account of federal courtroom testimony from the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, as documented by inner-city press after months of rumors, court leaks, and intense public scrutiny. The moment finally arrived. Sean Jay-Z Carter entered the courtroom, not as hip-hop royalty or a business titan, but as a man called to answer disturbing claims and defend a longtime associate. As Diddy's empire collapsed under the weight of bizarre party allegations and witness statements, Jay-Z found himself pulled into the chaos. His name was now linked to places he denied visiting, acts he swore he never witnessed, and individuals he claimed he never knew. But how would he explain himself to a jury, the press, and a culture that once idolized him? What would he say, with the world watching? The courtroom had just calmed after a tense morning of legal maneuvering. Prosecutors were preparing to revisit evidence connected to Cassie Ventura's testimony. Diddy's defense team appeared nonchalant, flipping papers, pretending to be unfazed. Then the doors opened, not quietly, not timidly, but with purpose. As if truth itself had come to confront those trying to bury it, Jay-Z walked in, wearing a dark navy suit so precise it looked like a suit of armor. He didn't look around. No nods, no wife, no Rock Nation crew, just Jay. A towering figure entering a space no one ever imagined him, and certainly not as a witness. The courtroom gasped. Some stood halfway without thinking. A reporter dropped her pen. Cassie, seated with prosecutors, leaned over to whisper urgently. Even the judge lifted an eyebrow. Diddy looked toward the doors, frozen, eyes wide. To him, it must have felt like a ghost from his past had come to life. Jay-Z hadn't been expected. He had asked the court to keep his testimony private, but that request was denied. The judge ruled that the people deserved transparency now. Jay-Z wasn't performing on stage, he was stepping into history. Not with rhymes, but with raw truth. He raised his right hand, took the oath, and addressed a room packed with lawyers and journalists who once toasted champagne deals with him. His voice was steady but tense, like a cable stretched to its limit. "Let me be clear," he said. "I'm here because staying quiet ain't an option anymore." And with that, the room shifted, because this wasn't Sean Carter, the icon, speaking. This was the man. This wasn't just testimony, it was confrontation. Jay-Z didn't show up to dodge or deny. He came with clarity, and that made things far more dangerous. "Yes, I got invites to Diddy's parties. Yes, I went," he stated. "But what I saw and what I was told were two different stories." His words were slow, pointed. His legal team sat frozen. Diddy's side looked puzzled. Was this helping them or burying them? The answers unraveled gradually. Jay-Z shared what no one in that room expected. "I saw how it worked, the NDA letters, the phone checks, the back rooms with curtains. I never entered those places, never signed anything. But I knew." He stopped. "I knew something wasn't right." That moment cracked the courtroom open. It wasn't just presence, it was witnessing the machinery of something dark. The very thing described by Cassie, Don, Richard, and others in terrifying detail. Jay turned to the jury. "In our world, there are parties and then there are setups. What I saw weren't celebrations. They were operations. Controlled experiences built around power." Then the prosecution asked, "Did you witness a crime?" Jay hesitated. "Not directly, but I saw enough to know I needed to leave." He recalled the 2015 party in Miami, supposedly for Christian Combs' birthday. "People were en masse," he said. "One man walked past in heels and leather. Everyone laughed. I didn't." He looked scared. Jay said he called his own driver and left early. "I didn't want my name tied to whatever that was." That's when the prosecution introduced the photograiny, but verified Jay-Z, Diddy, Beyonce, and LeBron in a room with a masked figure kneeling on a velvet pillow. Jay looked at it. "I was told it was art. I didn't laugh. And I didn't stay." He turned toward Diddy. "People trusted you, and you used that for the first time." Diddy's face cracked. Then Jay-Z went further. He described a private phone call with Diddy in late 2018, around the time industry whispers began to circulate. "Diddy told me, they're coming for me. Be careful who you stand by." Jay said he asked him directly, "Did you do something I can't defend?" Diddy allegedly said, "It's just parties, Jay, just experiences. Nobody gets hurt unless they want to." Jay's voice tightened. "That was the last real talk we had." He told the court he'd stopped taking Diddy's calls, distanced himself from Revolt, pulled out of joint projects, and instructed Rock Nation to step back. "I didn't want our brand anywhere near whatever Puff was dealing with." Then came a bombshell, a 2020 email exchange between Jay-Z's attorneys and an anonymous source. The message warned that old NDA letters might be used to implicate guests, even innocent ones. Jay nodded. "I knew then they'd use silence as armor." But I wasn't going to hide behind it. He ended the third part of his testimony with a line that trended before the judge could call recess. He used to be my brother. Now, I see who he really is and who I almost became standing next to him. The courtroom was still. Jay sat forward, hands clasped, voice steady but raw. This wasn't just a celebrity dragged into scandal. This was a father, a husband, and a man standing up for everything he'd spent decades building. I need to speak about my family, he began, eyes locked on the jury. When my name gets dragged through the mud, theirs does too. The room fell still. Jurors leaned forward. Reporters stopped typing. Even Diddy, who had been scrawling distracted notes all morning, looked up. Jay-Z spoke plainly about what the accusations had done to Beyonce and their children. Blue Ivy can read headlines now, he said. She asked me what a freak-off was. That's not something a father should have to explain. He described how, once the lawsuit mentioned his name, the media descended. Photographers camped outside their house. Paparazzi hovered near Blue's school. News stories blurred fiction and reality, turning his home into a war zone of speculation. My wife stood by me through everything, he said. But this wasn't business drama or industry beef. This was a bomb dropped on my family. And the worst part, it was all based on a lie. Then came the most direct rebuttal, the claim that he and Beyonce attended the 2015 Miami freak-off. Jay-Z opened a folder and presented flight logs. We were in Paris, he said. It was our anniversary. We stayed at the Plaza Athene. He handed over hotel receipts, time-stamped videos, photographs, and statements from multiple eyewitnesses. The prosecution reviewed it. The judge asked for confirmation. The clerk verified everything. Jay-Z had brought receipts literally, but he wasn't done. He went after the tabloid ecosystem that gave these rumors oxygen. When did we stop asking for proof? He asked the court. When did gossip become guilt? His voice rose slightly. My reputation doesn't just belong to me. It belongs to my wife, my kids, our legacy. I've spent my life building something positive, something clean, and one baseless accusation can smear that overnight. He mentioned Beyonce several times but didn't lean on her fame. He spoke of her as a partner and mother, caught in crossfires she never asked for. I came here to tell the truth, he said, because no one, not even a billionaire, should get to bury people with lies. Jay-Z's calm held steady, but his tone sharpened as he addressed the next claim, that he attended a Miami party hosted by Gloria and Emilio Estefan during one of Diddy's alleged freak-offs. Let me be absolutely clear, he said. I've never been to a party at Gloria Estefan's house. Not in Miami. Not anywhere. He then presented a timeline detailed logs of his whereabouts that week, corroborated by security logs, transport records, and event programs. On the night in question, Jay-Z said he was across the country. I was in LA, at a charity dinner for the Sean Carter Foundation at the Peterson Automotive Museum. He explained, here's my speech, here's the guest list, here's a photo with the mayor. The evidence was airtight. The court displayed security footage confirming his arrival and departure to the minute. But what landed hardest wasn't just the proof. It was Jay-Z's breakdown of how these stories take root. He criticized the slippery language in lawsuits and the damage of innuendo. You don't need a lie to be loud, he said. You just need it to be repeated. He explained that his name wasn't pulled in because of evidence or witness statements. It was dragged in because of proximity, reputation, and the clickbait culture that feeds off insinuation. Blindsided by it, the prosecutor asked, his tone narrowing like a scalpel. Jay-Z took a breath. What I'm saying, he began slowly, is that what Cassie's described, none of that happened in front of me. I wasn't privy to what went on behind closed doors. I saw the smiles, the performances, the polished surface. Not what she's saying happened underneath. His voice was even but edged with something unmistakable: fatigue, maybe, or disbelief. If what she's saying is true, he added, then I was lied to. Like a lot of people. He turned slightly toward the jury. I'm not here to protect anyone. I'm not here to pretend I saw what I didn't. But I won't let silence make me guilty of something I had no part in. The prosecutor nodded but pressed on. You said earlier that silence can be dangerous. That not speaking up sooner might have made things worse. If that's the case, why did you stay quiet when the rumors started? Jay-Z paused, eyes flicking toward the reporters. The court sketch artist, the row of grim federal officials. Because I thought the truth would outrun the lies, he said. But it didn't, and now I know better. The prosecutor reached for a folder, flipping it open with purpose. Mr. Carter, in this file are statements from individuals who claim you were present at gatherings where NDA letters were distributed, phones were taken, and guests were segregated by invitation-only tiers. Are you denying you ever saw those systems in place? Jay-Z didn't flinch. I saw NDA letters. I saw phones taken. That wasn't hidden. It was marketed as exclusivity, controlled environments, VIP experiences. But that's not a crime. That's an industry tactic one I didn't invent. And the private rooms, the prosecutor asked, you never entered any of them? No. Jay-Z said. And if something illegal happened in them, I didn't see it. And if I had, I wouldn't be sitting here waiting for you to ask me about it. I'd be the one telling you first. The room stayed tense, but Jay-Z's tone had shifted from defensive to defiant. Don't mistake my past appearances for present complicity, he said. I was a guest, not a participant in anything criminal. With that, the prosecutor closed his folder. No further questions for now. Jay-Z leaned back, his hands calmly folded, eyes on the floor. He had just spent hours answering for rumors, headlines, and a man he no longer claimed as a friend. The courtroom was silent, not because the story was over, but because everyone knew it had just entered its next chapter. Defensive, he did what he had to do to protect his family. Others more cynical, is just another elite scrambling for cover now that the walls are closing in. Hashtag surged, hashtag Jay-Z testifies, hashtag protect Blue Ivy, hashtag Diddy trial, and more damningly, who knew what went at the heart of it all. The real question was no longer whether Jay-Z had attended Diddy's infamous events. It was what he understood them to be, and whether, in hindsight, that understanding came too late. Inside the courtroom, legal analysts were already bracing for what came next. Jay-Z's testimony, while exculpatory, had cast a shadow over the entertainment industry's silent complicity. Names unspoken in court were whispered in hallways, and suddenly every artist, exec, and influencer who'd ever RSVP'd to a curated experience found themselves glancing nervously over their shoulder. Jay-Z's words, "I'm not here to protect Diddy," were dissected on every podcast and panel. But it was his last remark. "I'm here to protect my name," that lingered. Was that nobility or strategy? Empathy or self-preservation? Back in the gallery, as people filtered back in for the next witness, Cassie Ventura adjusted her notes but kept her eyes forward. To her, it seemed the show of supportive disbelief, of defense, of distancing meant little. The machine was being exposed piece by piece. Jay-Z had made sure he wouldn't be crushed in its gears. But the question remained, how many others could say the same? As the judge returned and the clerk called the next witness, the door closed quietly behind them. Jay-Z's chapter was over, but its ripples were just beginning to hit the shoreline. Beginning. In the court of public opinion, credibility had become currency, and Jay-Z had spent a fortune trying to preserve his. The damage was measurable, but not fatal. His receipts, his carefully structured denials, his emotional appeals, they bought him time, they bought him sympathy, but they didn't buy him absolution. That wasn't for the court to grant. That belonged to the culture. Outside the courthouse, the mood was split like a nation at a moral crossroads. Was Jay-Z a man who had outgrown the shadows of his past associations, or was he a savvy architect, carefully stepping around the cracks in a collapsing empire? For every fan who believed in his integrity, there was a skeptic replaying every photograph, every Rock Nation party, every brunch. The prosecution, meanwhile, shifted strategy. No longer just about Diddy's alleged crimes, their case began evolving into something larger and exposed on the culture of celebrity insulation. Jay-Z's appearance, whether he meant to or not, opened that door. The next subpoenas would go deeper, cast wider. Publicists, stylists, assistants, anyone who once stood quietly behind the velvet ropes were now within range. And then came the reckoning online. Threads documenting timelines, collages of party guests, podcasts parsing Jay-Z's body language frame by frame. Even Beyonce, though absent from court, couldn't remain untouched. Some fans clung to the image of the unbreakable couple. Others whispered, if not complicity, then at least complacency. She had to know something, didn't she? Yet for all the noise, Jay-Z's final point lingered with disturbing clarity. If we don't draw the line here today, then none of us are safe from what comes next. A warning, a challenge, or a confession, whatever it was, it marked a turning point. The trial was no longer about Diddy alone. It was about an industry addicted to secrets, powered by proximity, and shielded by silence. And now, the silence was broken.